Welcome to 101, a podcast for young women interested in careers in film and TV.
We'll sit down with industry professionals, ask them your questions, and get the answers you need to know.
101. It's a beginning.
So Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia actually started out as a passion project, and it was only supposed to be a short film. Gary Mills, who the story is centered around, that's actually my first cousin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I was inspired by his story. So to take it back, I worked for a boutique production company.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were hired to do docuseries for Watch and Know. And one of the series was called Good People. So I pitched my cousin's story. And when I got to film my cousin, the episode was only 5 minutes. And I'm like, man, this doesn't even really show, the magnitude of this organization and these kids. And that was 2019. So I said to myself, one day I'm going to make this film the way that I want to make this film. Fun fact about me, I quit my corporate job when I was 34 years old to follow my dreams of being a producer.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love this. I have such a similar story.
COVID hits, and I'm like, man, I'm kicking myself in the behind. Because I'm like, I worked at a boutique production company. I had access to all the equipment. Why didn't I never do it? And I realized it's because I had quit my job and I never went to film school, never did any of these things. Took a $70 course at Philly Cam that says how to be a producer, And so I called my friends who are in the industry as well. And I said, guys, I don't have no money. I don't have a cent to my name. But I have this idea, and I really want to talk about what's been happening with the gun violence in our city. Would you want to just help me with this on weekends? Of course, let's do this. And so on the weekends, we started filming. And after a while, it's like, we have something special here. I think I'm going to turn this into my first feature film. And I want to create a sizzle because we have footage. And let's see if we can crowdsource and get money. So we create a sizzle. I share with my two film sisters, Shaquela and Edith. And they say to me, Kyra, you cannot crowdsource for this. Let us see if let's share it around, see if we can find someone to help you fund this. And so Edith ends up sharing it to Mark Mims, who's a Grammy-winning producer. He messages me and says, hey, can we jump on a Google Meet? So I said, okay. And he says, Kyra, the sizzle is amazing. I know you don't know me from a can of paint, but I will get you this money. Please do not crowdsource. And so he came through, he got me the money. It was $20,000 out of his own account. And then the rest of the money he was going to put towards marketing, posters, all of that. And he said, can you make $20,000 work? And I said, I am also a producer. I can make $20,000 work. I know these rental houses. I hired them for my clients' projects. I can make this work. It was a labor of love. I had rental houses donating gear to us. My film squad, they donated their gear. They wouldn't even take hardly any of my money. They kept on saying, put it in post, put it in post. Even my editor gave me a huge discount, only charged me 50% of what he typically would charge. And we created a movie. From there, it kind of took a life of its own. It premiered at ABFF, which is the American Black Film Festival. It's our Black Sundance. Premiered there, won numerous awards at all these festivals, and now is streaming on Fox Soul. But if you watch it on Fox Soul, there's commercials, and you can rent and buy it now on Amazon. What? And I've only been in this business now for 5.5 years.
That's wild.
Crazy.
Congrats.
It's wild.
Yeah. You may have mentioned the title already, but can you just say the title again?
Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia.
That's the thing that as women, I think we totally discount. We're like, oh, we don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know what? One of our skills, and I think a lot of women are similar, we are able to collect good people and surround ourselves with really good people who believe in us. That is incredible. I love that story. Amazing.
Thank you. And like you said, I pride myself on creating a safe space for my creatives that are behind the camera, and that's something that I pride myself on. And I have a strict no asshole policy. No assholes allowed.
Yes. We have a similar policy. We also have a no yelling policy.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not like, you know, sometimes we get a little spicy, right? That's normal. So what
Different.
I'll do is I'll break up the tension. I'll say, "Oh, we being a little spicy today," and then they'll automatically laugh, and then the tension is like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
creates, yeah, and that type of mentality is crucial to keeping everybody, together and on the
Mhm.
same page. Yeah, because it can go in different directions that we've all seen,
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yes.
How did you get started? What were your first kind of moments in the industry?
At the young age of 6, I was a child that had too much energy. So my grandparents put me in Freedom Theater. So I actually started out as a theater kid. And then I ended up going to the High School of Creative and Performing Arts here in Philly. The same high school that Boys to Men and Jasmine Sullivan and The Roots, all of them went to. But what was great about Kappa, which is what we call it, is that they also, in the drama department, we also had a TV film department too. So we had to learn theater and we also had to learn film. So that's when I really got my first touch of film. And then when I graduated from high school, I didn't go to college. I actually had the opportunity to perform off Broadway in New York for a play called Corner Wars. The night before, the day before, excuse me, I had called my grandfather. Because, back in the day when you wanted to get headshots printed up, you actually had to go to a professional. And it was like this whole big, expensive process. And my last conversation with him was, Pop, can you put money in my account so I can get my headshots printed out? And then that night he passed away from a heart attack. And in my mind, I thought that I was the cause of this. I was only 19 years old. And so after we finished the play, I actually quit the arts. And it wasn't until I got engaged when I was 30 that I felt like something was missing in my life. I'm like, okay, I got the job, I got the fiance, but something just felt like there was a hole missing. And I realized that it was the arts. And so I got in touch with my old acting coach and I was working my 9 to 5 corporate job. I would leave the corporate job, take a train to New York, do my acting classes, come back, go back to the corporate job. It was like over and over and over again. And then I ended up writing my own one-woman show, performed that, one theater row. But around that same time, an old friend of mine said, "Hey, Kyra, you're so organized. Can you produce my short film?" Huh, what does a producer do? So I took that $70 course at Philly Camp, how to be a producer. I know what I was doing on that first short film, had no idea, but I caught the bug, right? And so I started reaching out to people that I knew that was in the film industry and say, "Hey, can I shadow you on set?" And then my husband came home one day from me being at work at my corporate job, and I was crying on the couch, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I can't do this anymore. Can I quit my job to follow my dreams?" And he said, "Give me 90 days." And I said, "Okay." So the next day I went to my job and I gave them my 90 days notice. I just took a leap of faith. It's like when you start walking in your path, things just start happening for you organically. Around that same time, one of my old ICE high school friends was a creative director for that boutique production company, and they needed an actor. So I said, okay, I auditioned, got the lead part. And when I was supposed to be resting, I would go to the crew. "Hey, you guys need help? You need help with this? You need. And so when we wrapped, the founder of the boutique company said, "Well, what are you into?" I said, "Well, I just, quit my job because I want to be a producer." And he said, "Well, do you want to work here one day a week as a runner?" I said, "Yes." And so I started working there one day a week. They asked me to start casting those docu-series. What does a casting, what do you do? I don't know. I figured it out. I started using social media. Verizon Media really loved the stories that I was finding. Next thing I know, "Kyra, can you just be the associate producer? We're starting to get busy." Okay. Next thing I know, "Kyra, you're already talking to these people. You're already learning how to produce. Can you just direct these two?" I'm like, okay. The next thing you know, because they're getting the big projects. And these docu-series, the budget for pre-production to post was only $10,000 to $12,000. So I ended up learning in my first year how to cast, produce, and direct. And from there on, I ended up winning 2 silver tellies for that work that I did for those docuseries. And I tell people when they ask, well, you just got thrown into directing, how did you do it? And I said, well, every time I was on a shoot day, I would go to the editor. I said, how did I fuck up this episode and how can I make it better? And then they just started saying, we need establishing shots this time, Kyra. We need this, we need that. And that's really how, I know it's a long story, but that's really how my journey got started.
That is so awesome and great to hear for our listeners, because you never know when that person that you're going to come across sees you and sees your talent and your potential and takes a chance and says, look, I need somebody exactly like you. You're a go-getter. You understand what's going on. You understand the optics. You know how to communicate properly to people.
Yes.
That attitude mixed with that combination of finding somebody that sees you is so cool and so amazing. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to a lot of people. You'd be surprised.
I think we put a lot of like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I can't apply for this because I don't have that experience, etc. And we talk ourselves out of opportunities. I've done it. I know other women that have done it. And to have someone like you who you're like, I've never done this, but I'm going to learn all I can and I'm going to do it. It's something about this business where everybody thinks like, oh, you have to go to film school. It's like, no, you don't. I mean, I know a lot of people who have gone to film school. I know a lot of people who have not gone to film school. So thank you for sharing that. And one of the reasons why we started this podcast is also because we want young women to know that there's not just one path. Like, it's not like, oh, major in this, go to film school, have your parents pay for everything. Like, that wasn't my journey. So it's kind of like, be scrappy, go figure it out, get a job, do it, do the best you can, make mistakes.
No need to rack up more debt. Just get right into it.
Right. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, I was 34 and there were so many people that doubted me. I mean, people were talking about me behind my back to my husband. Like, how are you going to let Kyra quit her job? How are you going to let Kyra quit her job? What? Like, that's my husband, but he's also not the boss of me. I mean, we're a team, but like saying stuff like that, or Kyra needs to settle down. You guys need to have kids and you need to, how are you telling us what we need to do with our lives? One of my proudest moments was when I produced for the Philadelphia Eagles and they gave me tickets to go to the Eagles game, a whole VIP experience. And my husband is a diehard Eagles fan. And it happened during the playoffs for his 41st birthday. And for me to be able to, my career, to give him this amazing gift was like the biggest highlight ever for me.
What do you feel like you connect with most? Because you've been in a lot of different roles. Like, are there certain things about being a producer that you love? Or like, how do you define your role?
So I feel like once you're a producer, it's kind of hard not to produce. I mean, case in point, I did a campaign that's currently running for Johnson & Johnson, and I had a producer and I was the director. And my producer literally had to say, Kyra, let me produce. You don't have to do this. And it's just so hard to take because when you're a producer, you're also very particular about how you like things done. Instead of calling myself a director or calling myself a producer, I tend to call myself more of a storyteller. So that's I guess you could say that's more of the role that I identify with.
I think often in this business, ego and just like buzz and all of that stuff that's not real kind of like, I don't want to say it just kind of ruins like the art. And to kind of approach it from that way, it just makes it so grounded in truth, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, there's so many stakeholders and all these people, but like like deep down, it's like, you are a human working with other humans. Let's treat them like humans, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And like when it comes to the corporate projects, I always tell my clients, my job is to find the heart in every story. And I pride myself on that. And I guess going back, that's probably why I call myself a storyteller first.
And you shared that you do some corporate work. You obviously are a documentarian. How do you navigate that? Because it's a really important skill for our listeners to be aware of and also to have on their radar.
One of the things because I have so many mentees, I tell the mentees, every project is not going to be exciting. You're going to get your corporate project, but you're going to find your heart in your corporate project. But let's be honest, like corporate projects pay our bills. Like I'm still a 40-year-old woman. Like I still have to pay my bills. So I guess it was, when bad things happened in Philadelphia, it was very hard navigating it because during that time I was working as a full-time producer. And so when I would have my one-on-ones with my production manager, and every week she would say, what's going on with bad things happen in Philadelphia? I'm like, oh, well, I had this shoot, in Texas, and I had to go there and blah, blah, blah. And this fire came up and I would never forget. And that's why she's listed in the thank yous in my credits. She said to me, you're breaking my heart because you're not finishing your film. And she was like, Kyra, I'm not the type of boss that micromanages. She said, so if you have your meetings for your film, put your meetings on your calendar and just put unavailable. She said that if you have to shoot on a day that, you have to work, I will handle your client communications for you. Who does that? What boss does that? And Glass and Mark of the company too, they knew, like, when Maria was handling my client communicate, they were 100% supportive of me finishing my film too. So I didn't just have the backing of my boss, but I also had the backing of the whole entire company, the founder and CEO. That's really how I was able to manage it. And when I was in post-production, I was all over the United States after 12, 13-hour days, coming back to the hotel, looking at rough cuts, making notes. I just did it. But I feel like it was the passion that fueled me. And also the fact that my friends did this project for me for free and or little to no money. And I couldn't let them down. I had people that were in front of my camera sharing the rawest stories. I had to finish this film for them. I had to finish this film for my city because we were going through horrible gun violence during this time, so it was my passion that fueled me. And don't get me wrong, I cried a lot, a lot of tears, a lot of frustration, but I did it, and it was so rewarding.
I wonder if that's a lesson for our listeners and like, people who haven't had much experience in the real world yet. Being transparent is okay in certain situations. You don't have to hide everything or feel like you can't talk to somebody about something. I can't say that everybody will have the situation that you had, but you never know. You never know until you ask.
You never know.
I felt this way when I was younger. A lot of artists feel like they have to hide being an artist, especially if you have a more traditional day job. I love that you have all of this experience. When you start a project as a storyteller, what is your process?
As a filmmaker, is if someone's story inspires me, then I first look at my bank account and see if I can take it on. And then, I'll reach out to that person and I introduce myself and I say, hey, would you mind jumping on a call with me or going out to have a cup of coffee? And then I'll just chat with them and I say, hey, like, your story is very inspiring. I'm very interested in doing it. I never like my first conversation with someone on camera to be with a camera right in front of their face. I like to earn their trust. I like to know who they are. I like to let them know that I respect who you are. I'm not going to exploit your stories. And I always let them know that I'm going to be authentic. Then I always chat with my editor. So my editor, Kevin, is amazing. Kevin really thinks about the story. And so I'll ask him, like, are there things that I'm missing when I go in to interview this person? Because I always tell people, I strongly believe that editors don't get the credit that they deserve. And I strongly believe that editors are directors too, because they see things that we don't see. He watches everything. And then he just starts pulling and start pulling. And then even today, we're working on a documentary. And Kevin and I, we were on a call for 3 hours talking about stories. So we talk, we bounce off of each other. And we actually kind of take it into our corporate work too, except for we do storyboard for that, because obviously I'm working with a client. I have to let them visualize, where we're going with this, whatever. But overall, the process is still the same. It's just more, I guess you could say, more structured than when I'm in the documentary process.
Kevin's a keeper.
I mean, Kevin was one of those editors that I would go to and I would say, how did I mess up my episode and how can I be better? So he was there when I was so green, and he's been part of my journey since. And now we're like partners in almost everything that we do.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I remember when I was working on my first feature, I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I know? Like, I don't have any money. I don't have anything. I literally, what am I good at? And I was like, I'm good at collecting good people. Like that's how I started. And that's how I started like building my team and my confidence. And it seems like Kevin is one of those people that you're just like, you just kind of keep them and say, come on, do you want to do this?
It's amazing. When you start your first feature, you didn't know what you're doing. I'm now venturing to the narrative world. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm currently a Sundance producer fellow. And so I'm producing my first narrative, and I'm so scared. And I almost talked myself out of submitting to the Sundance Fellowship. But the story is so amazing. It's written by my film sister, Edith, who originally got me my funder, Mark. It comes full circle, right? What I love about my fellowship so far is that they know I have imposter syndrome, and they threw me in an imposter syndrome class to help me deal with my imposter syndrome.
I want to talk about that because I think it's so important. And if you're okay with talking a little bit about what imposter syndrome means.
Imposter syndrome to me is, why am I here? I don't belong here at all. I'm surrounded by people that's been in this business for years and years and years. And now I'm stepping on this set and I'm in charge. Who am I? With imposter syndrome, you tend to talk yourself out of opportunities that you are actually perfect for. And the way that I talk myself out of letting my imposter syndrome break me down is I always say, Kyra, life is not a rehearsal. This is showtime. So you just got to get out and you got to do it. And you just got to conquer your fears. And that's the way that I talk myself out of it all the time.
That's so helpful. It's funny because we met you on a panel at a film festival. We were on the same panel with you. And I remember sitting in that seat and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Mm-hmm. Hearing what you've accomplished, hearing all of the other people on the thing. And I was like, oh, geez. That's exactly what I
felt the same way.
I was like,
the same way. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I on this stage?
But you know why we were there.
And you know why we were there, right? And just listeners, to give you a little background, like on the panel, there was also like the CEO of a major production company, like major studio. And, he's giving advice that was, I don't know if you felt this way, but like, it was very dated and very
out of touch. Like, oh yeah, you can get your film into Sundance, no problem. Oh, you can get, just like giving these people complete hopes that we're just like.
No, I was like, come on.
There were a couple moments where I was just like, well, this is why we're here. I'm like, you're welcome. Like, I made a film in 11 days. I made a feature film in 11 days because I didn't have a choice. So, but I think imposter syndrome, it's not something that you can get rid of right away. Like, you learn to manage it, just like Kyra was saying. And I think that that's really it. Like, you have to manage it. And eventually, like, I think it just changes. I hope.
And like surrounding yourself by people that you feel safe with. Mm-hmm. I can ask my DP a certain question about equipment and he doesn't make me feel like I'm an idiot. So it's kind of like surrounding yourself with individuals too, that you can go to and ask questions, because we don't know everything and our industry is constantly evolving.
If someone does make you feel like you're an idiot, maybe they're not the right person to work with. Because
Bingo.
I've been in that situation as well. To your point, surrounding yourself with people who you can ask questions and feel safe with. I feel like that's something to strive for, to have a team like that and to work in teams like that.
My little mentees, and I always ask them, I'm like, okay, what do you really want to do? What is your goal out of this? You know, and if they want to be a gaffer, or Jalen that wants to be a cam op, or, you know, Victoria that wants to be a director, I'll say to that head of department, okay, when this person is done doing these tasks, can they just like shadow you so that way they can start learning? Because this is the department they really want to be in. And that method that I have done has worked countless times. I mean, Jalen just graduated from Temple. He's now getting hired for second cam op, second AC, and sometimes DP roles. And they also learn proper set protocol and all of that, you know?
This
So it's
mentorship
giving them
is
that
great.
leg up. Yep, it's mentorship.
It is so rare. People, they don't do things like that, and shame on them. It just shows like such amazing leadership, insightful, and just heading toward a common goal. I mean, don't we want to create great employees and great colleagues so that
Yeah.
down the road, when we get to work with them again, it's like they're in such a good space. I feel like, you know, it's
Yeah.
such a wonderful
Shoot,
thing.
who knows? They might be hiring us. Like,
Yo, that's a good
in my
point.
mind, I'm setting up my future jobs too.
That's so funny. I just finished Three Body Problem last night, and it's like, I don't know if you guys have seen the show, but it's like, you know, there's a problem 400 years down the road. Let's try and solve it now. Okay, humans would never do that in real life, but in the show,
Oh
they're
my
starting to solve the problem.
Yes.
And that's like, you know, if you're passionate about this industry, you would of course hope to want to improve for next generations to come. So
Right.
The
Well-
current state of the industry, there's a lot that has changed, but as we all know, there's a lot that needs to change. It's still quite toxic. It's still, you know, a bunch of old white guys running the show.
I'll never forget one time I was filming in Denver, and my director, he was all like, he said to me, he said, "You hired a female gaffer?" I said, "Yes." I was like, "She's amazing. She comes highly recommended." After the shoot, he was like, "Wow, she was great, Kyra." I'm like, yeah, women can be gaffers too. Women can be key grips too. Women can be sound mixers too. We're not just the paper pushers.
We're not
you know?
just scripties and makeup and hair.
Yeah, right, exactly. We're not just hair and makeup. We're not just the wardrobe stylist.
Exactly.
No, there's a lot of badass women out here.
That's true. If you can kind of talk to our listeners about how to navigate negotiating rates. We want young women to be able to ask for what they need, but also to navigate, because it's not easy.
Oh, I always ask my male producer and directors how much they make. And so when someone asks me what my rate is, that's my rate. I mean, I'll give you an example. I know one of my first ACs, Gabby, I was like, "Gabby, what's your rate for this corporate project?" And she said, $550. I said, "Excuse me?" I was like, "You're one of the best first ACs that we have here in the tri-state." I was like, $550. I was like, "That's not your rate." I was like, "I hire men $850, not including their gear." I was like, "Your rate moving forward is $850. And then you tell the client that depending on your budget, your rate is negotiable, you know? Ask what the budget is, you know? Is this a low budget? Is this a budget that we have a substantial budget? Like, always shoot high and then negotiate if need be.
And if you are listening and you are a producer, it is your responsibility to make sure that you're not cutting corners with your female crew, making sure that they are earning the same as male counterparts.
This is our environment, right? And you want to create a safe space for your creatives, so that way everyone they're going into that project feeling 100%, feeling supported and ready to just kick ass.
What has inspired you growing up as far as like film and theater? You know, do you have a favorite director or favorite film? Like, what do you like to watch?
Oh, if I could just meet Ava DuVernay one day, I would be complete. Ava DuVernay, she was the reason why I got the guts to quit my job, because I found out that she quit her job when she was 34 to become a filmmaker. So I was like, if she can do it, I can do it, you know? I probably would be like the whole time. I mean, I even have a bobblehead of Ava DuVernay.
Yes.
Spike Lee, man, that's another one.
Yeah.
I really like his raw storytelling was really what really started getting me into movies, was Spike Lee, his Mo Better Blues, Do the Right Thing, you know, all of those things, Jungle Fever, like that's what really got me into movies.
Well, this has been really, really great conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Kyra, thank you so much. And thanks for the change. I am so grateful. If you're interested in learning more about 101, check out our website, www.101podcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, all at 101 Podcast.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.